Have you ever noticed something strange? The biggest arguments in your life often happen with people who aren't even there. You're lying in bed, the room is quiet, your phone is face down, nothing is happening. But inside your head, you're having a full conversation. I should have said this. Why did they look at me like that? Maybe they think I'm stupid. What if tomorrow goes wrong? It's almost like your brain has opened 20 tabs and forgotten where the music is coming from. And the frustrating part? You know it's pointless. You know thinking about it again isn't helping. Yet somehow, you keep thinking again and again and again. If that's you, I want to tell you something that might surprise you. You're probably not overthinking because you're weak. You're not overthinking because you're broken. And you're definitely not the only person who experiences this. In fact, your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. The problem is, it's using an ancient survival system in a modern world. Today I'm going to explain why that happens. More importantly, I'm going to show you how to stop it. Not with fake positive thinking, not by saying just relax, and definitely not by pretending your worries don't exist. Instead, I'll show you why your brain keeps creating these endless loops and how you can gently step out of them. Because once you understand what's happening inside your mind, everything starts making much more sense. Let's imagine something. Suppose you're walking through a forest 10,000 years ago. You hear something move behind a bush. There are two possibilities. The first person thinks, it's probably nothing. The second person thinks, what if it's a tiger? Now imagine the bush actually hides a tiger. Who survives? Probably the second person, the cautious one, the one who expected danger. Our ancestors didn't survive because they were optimistic. They survived because they noticed possible threats before everyone else. And that's exactly how our brains were shaped over thousands of generations. Even today, your brain is constantly asking one question: what could go wrong? Notice something. It doesn't ask what's going well. It asks what's the danger? Because your brain isn't designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you alive. Psychologists call part of this tendency the negativity bias. Our minds naturally pay more attention to potential problems than to neutral or positive experiences, because throughout human history, missing a threat could be far more costly than overlooking something pleasant. That explains something interesting. Imagine someone gives you 10 compliments and 1 criticism. Which one stays in your head all day? Usually, the criticism. Your brain isn't trying to ruin your day. It's treating the criticism like important survival information. Remember this. Don't make this mistake again. Be careful. The problem is, today's tigers usually aren't wild animals. They're emails, presentations, relationships, social media, career decisions, text messages with short replies. Your brain reacts to all of these as if they're possible threats, and once it starts searching for danger, it rarely knows when to stop. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine your brain hires a security guard. This security guard has only one job: watch for problems. Every second, every minute, every day. Now imagine this security guard is extremely dedicated. Too dedicated. He doesn't only stop suspicious people, he stops everyone. Delivery drivers, neighbors, friends, family, even the mail carrier. Every tiny sound becomes an emergency. That's what overthinking often feels like. Your mental security guard never clocks out. Every little uncertainty becomes something that needs investigating. Your brain starts asking, what if they misunderstood me? What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if something bad happens later? The security guard believes he's protecting you, but eventually, he starts protecting you from life itself. Now here's something most people never realize. Overthinking doesn't usually begin with a thought. It begins with uncertainty. Think about it. When do you overthink the most? After sending an important message, before an interview, waiting for exam results, after an awkward conversation, before making a big decision. Notice the pattern? You don't know what's going to happen, and your brain hates unfinished information. Researchers have identified something called the Zeigarnik effect, which describes our tendency to keep mentally returning to unfinished or unresolved situations. Open loops naturally demand our attention. It's almost like your brain says, I refuse to relax until I know the answer. Except sometimes the answer won't come today, or tomorrow, or maybe ever. Yet your brain keeps searching, as if thinking harder will somehow create certainty. Let me tell you a quick story. Imagine you're trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle. You finish almost every piece, except one. Just one missing piece. Can you stop looking at the empty space? Probably not. Your eyes keep returning to it. That's exactly what uncertainty feels like inside your mind. One missing answer, one missing explanation, one unanswered text, one conversation that didn't go as expected, and suddenly, your brain refuses to move on. It keeps trying to complete the puzzle, even if the missing piece isn't available. Here's something even stranger. Most people think overthinking is caused by having too many thoughts, but that's not really what's happening. Imagine opening your internet browser. You don't have one tab open, you have 50. Each tab is trying to load. Each one demands attention. One says, "What about work?" Another says, "What about money?" Another says, "What if people judge me?" Another whispers, "Remember that embarrassing thing from 3 years ago?" None of these tabs are fully loading. They're simply running in the background. That's why overthinking feels exhausting. Not because thinking itself is tiring, but because your brain keeps switching between unfinished mental tabs. Every switch costs attention. Every switch drains energy. By the end of the day, you haven't solved much, but you feel mentally exhausted. There's another trap almost everyone falls into. We confuse thinking with solving. They sound similar, but they're completely different. Imagine your car gets stuck in mud. What helps? Pressing the accelerator carefully or flooring the pedal non-stop? If you keep pressing harder, the wheels spin faster. The mud gets deeper. You don't move forward. Overthinking works the same way. The harder you mentally spin around the same problem, the deeper you often sink into it. More effort, less progress. It creates the illusion that you're being productive. After all, you're thinking all the time. Surely that means you're solving something. But often, you're simply replaying the same thoughts from different angles. It's like reading the same page of a book 50 times, hoping the ending changes. Now, here's a question I want you to think about. Have you ever worried about something for weeks, only for it to turn out completely fine? Or maybe the thing you feared never even happened? Most of us have. That's because our brains are excellent at creating possibilities. But possibilities are not predictions. Just because your mind can imagine a negative outcome doesn't mean it's likely to happen. Brain imaging research shows that vividly imagining situations can activate many of the same brain networks involved in experiencing them, although imagination and real events are not identical. That's one reason imagined problems can feel surprisingly real. Your brain reacts, your body reacts, your emotions react, even when the danger exists only in your imagination. And once your body feels anxious, your brain looks for a reason. It says, "If I feel anxious, there must be something wrong." That creates a loop. Thought creates emotion. Emotion strengthens the thought. The thought creates even more emotion, around and around. Without realizing it, you become trapped inside a cycle your own mind is reinforcing. The important thing to remember is this: overthinking isn't proof that you're intelligent. It isn't proof that you're prepared. And it certainly isn't proof that you're seeing the future. Most of the time, it's simply your brain trying to reduce uncertainty by repeating the same mental process. The intention is protection, but the result is exhaustion. The good news? Once you recognize this pattern, you've already taken the first step toward breaking it, because you can interrupt a loop only after you notice you're inside one. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. Because understanding why your brain creates these loops is only half the story. The real breakthrough comes when you learn why some thoughts keep pulling you back, even when you desperately want to let them go. And once you understand that hidden mechanism, you'll start seeing your own mind in a completely different way. So now we know something important. Your brain isn't trying to torture you, it's trying to protect you. But here's the question that naturally comes next. If overthinking doesn't actually solve our problems, then why does the brain keep doing it? Why do intelligent people, kind people, successful people all get trapped in this same mental loop? The answer is fascinating, because overthinking gives us something our brain loves: the illusion of control. Let me explain. Imagine you're sitting in an airport. Your flight has been delayed because of bad weather. No matter how much you think about it, the plane isn't going to leave any sooner. But what do many people do? They constantly check the departure board, refresh the airline app, read the same updates again and again, look outside the window, ask the staff every 15 minutes. Has any of that changed the weather? No, but it creates a feeling that you're doing something. That feeling is comforting, even though it doesn't actually solve the problem. Overthinking works exactly the same way. When life feels uncertain, your brain says, keep thinking, keep analyzing. Maybe the next thought will finally solve everything. So you keep refreshing your mind, the same way someone refreshes a delayed flight status. The information rarely changes, but the habit continues. Here's another example. Imagine you lose your house keys. The first 5 minutes are useful. You remember where you've been. You retrace your steps. You check your pockets. That's problem solving. But now imagine it's been 2 hours. You've already searched everywhere, yet your brain keeps replaying the exact same memories. Maybe they were on the kitchen table. No, maybe the sofa. Wait, maybe my jacket pocket. Notice something? At some point, thinking stopped being useful. It simply became repetitive. This is one of the biggest differences people never learn. Thinking has a finish line. Overthinking doesn't. Problem-solving asks, what's the next action? Overthinking asks, what else could go wrong? One moves you forward, the other keeps you running in circles. There's a simple question I like to imagine asking the brain. Dear brain, exactly how much thinking would finally be enough? 1 hour? 5 hours? 3 days? The funny thing is, your brain never answers because it doesn't actually have a finish line. If your goal is absolute certainty, you'll never arrive. Life simply doesn't offer it. And once you understand that, something begins to change. You stop trying to reach a destination that doesn't exist. Now let's talk about something almost everyone has experienced. You're trying to sleep. You're completely exhausted. The lights are off, everything is quiet, and suddenly, your brain decides it's the perfect time to remember something embarrassing that happened 7 years ago. Maybe you waved back at someone who wasn't actually waving at you. Maybe you said the wrong thing in class. Maybe you made a mistake during a presentation. At the time, everyone probably forgot about it within a day, except one person, you. Why? Because our brains naturally give more attention to moments that feel socially threatening. Humans evolved in groups where belonging mattered. Feeling rejected or embarrassed could have serious consequences in our evolutionary past, so our minds became especially alert to signs of social mistakes. Today, that same system can cause us to replay awkward moments long after everyone else has moved on. And here's the strange part. Every time you replay that memory, your brain treats it as important. It's almost like highlighting the same sentence in a textbook over and over again. The more you revisit it, the more familiar it becomes. The more familiar it becomes, the easier it is to remember. This is one reason embarrassing memories can seem impossible to forget. Not because they were objectively huge events, but because they've been mentally rehearsed so many times. Now here's something that sounds backwards. Sometimes people overthink because they care deeply. Think about parents. Before their child leaves the house, they might think, did they eat enough? Will they reach safely? Did I forget anything important? Those thoughts come from love. Similarly, students overthink because they care about their future. Employees overthink because they care about doing well. Friends overthink because they value relationships. So caring isn't the enemy. The problem begins when caring quietly transforms into believing that endless thinking equals better outcomes. Imagine watering a plant. Without water, the plant dies. But if you pour 20 buckets of water onto it every day, you don't help it grow, you drown it. Thinking works the same way. A healthy amount helps. Too much starts causing harm. There's another mental habit that's easy to miss. Have you noticed how your brain often asks, what if? What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if everyone laughs? The words what if seem harmless, but they quietly pull your mind into an imaginary future. Here's something interesting. Your brain is incredibly creative. The same imagination that helps people invent technology, write stories, or solve problems can also create endless worst-case scenarios. The imagination itself isn't the problem. It's where it's being directed. Imagine someone hands you a movie projector. You can use it to watch inspiring films or horror movies. The projector doesn't choose, you do. Your mind is similar. It generates possibilities. Some are realistic, some are wildly unlikely. But if you're anxious, your attention naturally locks onto the scary ones. That doesn't mean they're true. It simply means they're emotionally louder. Let's do a quick thought experiment. Imagine two friends are waiting for someone who is 30 minutes late. The first person immediately thinks, something terrible must have happened. The second person thinks, traffic is probably bad. Same situation, completely different experience. What changed? Not reality, the interpretation. Psychologists often describe this idea in cognitive psychology. Our emotional reactions are influenced not only by events themselves, but also by how we interpret those events. Our brains are constantly filling in missing information. The problem is, an anxious brain usually fills those gaps with negative stories. And because those stories feel convincing, we mistake them for facts. Here's a sentence that changed the way I think about overthinking. Feelings are real, but they aren't always reliable evidence. If you feel nervous before giving a speech, that's real. If you feel uncertain before making a big decision, that's real. But those feelings don't automatically prove you're going to fail. Think about watching a horror movie. Your heart races, your muscles tense, you jump at sudden sounds. Your body reacts as though danger is nearby, yet you're sitting safely on a couch. The emotion is genuine, the threat isn't. Overthinking often creates the same mismatch. Your emotions are responding to imagined possibilities, not confirmed realities. Now let's talk about perfectionism. Many people don't realize that perfectionism and overthinking are close friends. Imagine you're writing an important email. You read it once, then twice, then 5 times. You change one sentence, then another. You move a comma, you delete it, you put it back. After 20 minutes, the email isn't dramatically better, but your anxiety temporarily feels lower. For a moment, it feels like checking one more time might prevent a mistake. The relief is real, but it doesn't last. Soon, another doubt appears, and the cycle starts again. This is why perfectionism can quietly fuel overthinking. The goal isn't excellence anymore. It's trying to eliminate every possible risk. And that's impossible. No human can guarantee that every decision, conversation, or message will be perfect. Here's another habit that keeps overthinking alive: constant reassurance. Imagine someone worries that a friend is upset with them. So they ask, "Are you mad at me?" Their friend says, "No." For a few minutes, they feel relieved. But later that evening, another thought appears. What if they were just being polite? Now they need reassurance again. Notice what happened? The reassurance reduced anxiety for a short time, but it never solved the deeper habit of doubting. It's a bit like scratching a mosquito bite. It feels better for a moment, then it starts itching again, sometimes even more. That's why temporary reassurance can accidentally keep the cycle going. The brain learns, whenever I feel uncertain, I need someone or something to remove the discomfort. Instead of learning, I can tolerate uncertainty without immediately solving it. Now here's something powerful. Have you ever noticed that children can become completely absorbed in playing? Hours pass. They're building a castle, drawing pictures, playing football. They aren't constantly asking, what will happen next Tuesday? They're fully engaged with what's in front of them. As adults, we still have that ability, but constant mental time travel pulls us away from the present. Overthinking lives almost entirely in 2 places: the past and the future. It rarely lives in the present moment, because in the present, there's usually just one next step, one conversation, one breath, one action. Have you ever noticed something else? Overthinking often gets louder when you're sitting alone with nothing meaningful to engage your attention. Maybe you're lying in bed after a long day. Maybe you're sitting in your room on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Or maybe you're scrolling through your phone without really paying attention to anything. That's not because being alone is unhealthy. In fact, spending time alone can be one of the most peaceful and restorative experiences. The difference is whether your mind has something meaningful to engage with. When you're creating something, learning, having a conversation, or fully focused on a task, your attention is directed toward the world around you. But when your mind has no clear direction, it naturally turns inward. And that's when it often starts replaying old conversations, imagining future problems, or searching for answers to questions that don't have immediate answers. In other words, an unoccupied mind doesn't stay empty for long. It starts creating its own work. That's one reason so many people say their overthinking gets worse late at night. The world finally becomes quiet, and suddenly, their thoughts become the loudest thing in the room. Think about driving a car. If you spend the entire journey staring into the rearview mirror, you're going to have problems. If you only stare far into the distance, you'll miss what's directly in front of you. Good driving requires attention to the road you're actually on. Life is similar. The past can teach us, the future can guide us, but neither is meant to occupy all of our attention. Now here's the biggest misunderstanding of all. Many people believe they must eliminate anxious thoughts before they can enjoy life. But what if that's the wrong goal? Think about the sky. Clouds appear. Some are light, some are dark. Some bring storms. Yet the sky doesn't chase them away. It allows them to come, and eventually they pass. Your mind works in a similar way. Thoughts naturally appear. Some are helpful, some are strange, some are uncomfortable. The goal isn't to stop your brain from producing thoughts. No healthy brain does that. The goal is learning that you don't have to climb aboard every thought that passes by. You can notice it without automatically believing it. You can hear it without obeying it. That small shift changes everything. Because here's the truth. Your brain will probably always generate what-if thoughts from time to time. That's part of being human. But those thoughts don't have to become your home. They can simply become visitors. They knock, you notice them, and then you decide whether to invite them in. In the next part, we're going to move from understanding to action. No unrealistic life hacks. No just think positive. Instead, I'll show you a practical system you can actually use when your mind starts spiraling. A system that's simple enough to remember, grounded in psychology, and designed to help you step out of the loop without fighting your own brain. Because understanding overthinking is empowering, but knowing what to do in the moment is what truly changes your life. So far, we've talked about why overthinking happens. We've seen that your brain isn't trying to make your life miserable, it's trying to protect you. The problem is, it often protects you from dangers that don't actually exist. Now comes the question you've probably been waiting for. Okay, I understand why I overthink, but what do I actually do when it starts? Because let's be honest, knowing the psychology is helpful, but when it's 2 a.m., you're replaying the same conversation for the 100th time, and your heart is racing. You don't need another theory. You need something practical, something simple, something you can actually remember. So today, I want to share a system that isn't about forcing your thoughts to disappear, because that rarely works. Instead, it's about changing your relationship with those thoughts. Think of it as learning to drive the car instead of letting your thoughts grab the steering wheel. Here's something that changed my perspective. Most people don't notice when they start overthinking. They only notice after they've already been stuck for 20 minutes. It's like walking into quicksand. You don't suddenly sink all at once. It happens gradually. One thought becomes another, then another, until you're trapped. So the first skill isn't stopping overthinking, it's recognizing it. Ask yourself one simple question. Am I solving something or am I replaying something? That's it. Read it again. Am I solving or replaying? If you're generating new information, making a decision, or taking action, you're probably solving. If you're thinking the exact same thoughts from yesterday, you're probably replaying. Imagine watching the same movie every night for a month. Would the ending change? Of course not. Overthinking is often just replaying the same mental movie, hoping for a different ending. The moment you notice that, something interesting happens. You create a tiny gap. Psychologists sometimes call this metacognition, the ability to notice your own thinking, rather than being completely swept away by it. That gap is incredibly powerful, because once you notice the loop, you've already stepped a little outside it. This sounds almost too simple, but research has shown that putting feelings into words can reduce emotional intensity. Instead of saying, "everything is going wrong," try saying, "I'm noticing that I'm worrying." Instead of, "this is a disaster," try, "my brain is imagining a disaster." Notice the difference. You're no longer inside the thought. You're observing it. Imagine sitting beside a river. Leaves float past. Each leaf carries a thought. You don't have to jump into the river and chase every leaf. You can simply watch them pass. The same applies to your thoughts. Not every thought deserves your attention. Some deserve nothing more than interesting, and then letting them drift away. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Adam. It's Friday evening. He's just finished work, looking forward to a relaxing weekend. Then his phone buzzes, a message from his manager. "Can you come to my office first thing Monday morning? We need to talk." That's it. No explanation, no emoji, no context. For the first few seconds, Adam feels completely normal. Then his brain gets to work. Wait, did I make a mistake in yesterday's report? Maybe that client complained. What if they're unhappy with my performance? What if I'm getting fired? Within 5 minutes, his heart is beating faster. He opens his laptop. He reads old emails, searching for clues. He replays every meeting from the past month. He remembers one tiny mistake he made 3 weeks ago. That must be it. The rest of the weekend disappears. He's physically at home, but mentally, he's sitting in his manager's office, imagining the worst possible conversation. Monday morning finally arrives. He walks into the office, already preparing himself for bad news. His manager smiles. "Good morning, Adam. We've been impressed with your work lately. We'd like you to lead our new project." Just like that, every terrifying story his brain had created over the weekend vanished. Now here's the interesting question. What actually caused Adam's anxiety? Was it the message? Not really. The message only said, "We need to talk." Everything else, his brain invented. And that's something all of us do. Our brains hate missing information. When there are empty spaces, they rush to fill them. Unfortunately, an anxious brain usually fills those spaces with worst-case scenarios instead of neutral ones. That's why one short text message can become an entire disaster movie inside your head. Which brings us to one of the most useful skills you'll ever learn. This might be the most useful exercise in the entire video. Take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On one side, write facts. On the other, write stories. Let's say your boss sends you a message. "Can we talk tomorrow?" Your brain immediately says, "I'm getting fired." Pause. Now ask, what are the facts? The boss wants to talk tomorrow. That's it. Everything else is a story your brain created. Maybe it's true, maybe it isn't, but you don't know yet. Our brains are incredible storytellers. Sometimes those stories are useful. Sometimes they're horror movies directed by anxiety. The goal isn't to stop storytelling. The goal is to stop confusing stories with evidence. Here's one of my favorite questions. What's the smallest action I can take right now? Not tomorrow, not next month, right now. Because action interrupts rumination. Imagine you're worried about an exam. You could spend 3 hours imagining failure. Or you could study for 20 minutes. Worried about your health? Book the appointment. Worried about money? Review your budget. Worried about a conversation? Write down what you want to say. Notice the pattern? Action creates information. Overthinking creates speculation. Your brain loves certainty. Action is one of the fastest ways to create it. This sounds unusual, but it's a technique used in forms of cognitive behavioral therapy. Instead of trying to stop worrying all day, schedule it. Seriously, choose 15 minutes every evening, maybe 7 p.m. That's your official worry time. Whenever anxious thoughts appear during the day, tell your brain, not now. We'll think about this at 7. At first, your brain won't like it, but something surprising often happens. By the time 7 o'clock arrives, many of those worries no longer feel important. Some disappear completely, others become easier to solve. Your brain slowly learns that not every anxious thought requires immediate attention. This is probably the hardest step, because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. But here's the truth. Trying to eliminate uncertainty is like trying to stop the wind. You can't. Life has always been uncertain. Think about every important moment in your life. Starting school, choosing a career, falling in love, changing jobs, moving to a new city. None came with guarantees. Yet life moved forward anyway. Here's a sentence worth remembering. Certainty is comforting, but growth usually lives inside uncertainty. The goal isn't to feel certain. The goal is becoming someone who can move forward, even without certainty. That's courage. Not the absence of fear, but action despite it. This tiny language change is incredibly powerful. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" try, "If I fail, what will I do?" Notice what changed? Your brain immediately starts looking for solutions instead of endless possibilities. Example, what if I embarrass myself? Becomes, if I embarrass myself, I'll laugh, learn, and move on. What if they reject me? Becomes, if they reject me, it'll hurt, but I'll recover. Suddenly, your brain realizes something. You've survived difficult things before. You'll survive future ones too. Confidence doesn't come from believing nothing bad will happen. It comes from trusting yourself to handle whatever does happen. Imagine your phone buzzes. Do you answer every notification? Probably not. Some are important, some are advertisements, some are spam. Your brain works the same way. Thoughts are mental notifications, not commands, not facts, not predictions, just notifications. Some deserve attention, many don't. Imagine if every advertisement you saw instantly became your reality. That would be ridiculous. Yet many of us treat anxious thoughts exactly like that. The next time your mind says, "Everyone is judging you," ask, "What's the evidence?" Not, "What does anxiety say?" Evidence. Your thoughts should earn your belief, not receive it automatically. Because here's something worth remembering. You don't heal by winning every argument with your thoughts. You heal by realizing you don't have to argue with every thought at all. Think about that for a moment. Every time anxiety hands you another frightening thought, you don't have to debate it. You don't have to prove it wrong. You don't have to convince it to leave. Sometimes the healthiest response is simply to notice it and let it pass. Sometimes we treat overthinking like it's purely psychological, but your brain is part of your body. Sleep matters. Exercise matters. Nutrition matters. Taking breaks matters. Stress hormones affect how easily our minds slip into repetitive thinking. Poor sleep, chronic stress, and exhaustion don't create every anxious thought, but they can make it much harder to think clearly. Think about your phone. When the battery drops to 1%, everything slows down. Apps crash. Performance suffers. Your brain isn't that different. Rest isn't laziness. It's maintenance. Movement isn't only for muscles. It also supports brain health and emotional regulation. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is get enough sleep. If you only remember one thing from this video, remember this. Every time you catch yourself overthinking, don't ask, "How do I stop thinking?" Ask, "What would the calm version of me do next?" Notice the wording. Not, "What would the fearless version do?" Not, "What would the perfect version do?" Just, "What would the calm version of me do next?" Maybe they'd send the email. Maybe they'd close the laptop. Maybe they'd go for a walk. Maybe they'd call a friend. Maybe they'd simply go to bed. One small action. That's all. Before I tell you one final story, I want you to remember one sentence. Overthinking doesn't steal tomorrow's problems, it steals today's peace. And that's exactly what this next story is about. Imagine two travelers carrying backpacks. The first traveler carries food, water, a map, and a jacket. The backpack is heavy, but useful. The second traveler fills the backpack with rocks, hundreds of them. Every few minutes, he picks up another rock. What if I need this one? Eventually, the backpack becomes impossible to carry. That's what overthinking does. Every worry, every imagined disaster, every embarrassing memory, every impossible scenario. Another rock. The strange part? Most of those rocks never become useful, yet we carry them anyway. Learning to stop overthinking isn't about finding stronger shoulders. It's about realizing you don't have to carry every rock your mind hands you. You can put some down. I want to leave you with one last thought. Imagine you're standing beside a busy road. Cars pass by every few seconds. Some are small, some are noisy, some are beautiful, some are old. Would you try to stop every single car? Of course not. You simply watch them pass. Thoughts are the same. Some are helpful, some are strange, some are scary, some are meaningless. You don't control which thought appears next, but you do have influence over which thoughts you continue following. That realization is incredibly freeing, because it means peace doesn't come from having a perfectly quiet mind. Peace comes from no longer feeling obligated to chase every thought that enters it. And maybe that's what real mental freedom looks like. Not an empty mind, but a mind that knows the difference between thinking and living. If this video helped you see your own mind a little more clearly, remember this: your goal isn't to become someone who never overthinks. Your goal is to become someone who notices the loop earlier, responds with kindness instead of panic, and gently returns to the present. That won't happen overnight. Some days you'll catch yourself in 5 minutes. Some days it might take an hour. That's okay. Progress isn't measured by never overthinking again. It's measured by spending less time trapped in the loop and more time living the life that's happening right in front of you. Because life isn't waiting for your mind to become perfect. It's waiting for you to show up, even with an imperfect mind. If this video helped you, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like. And if you think someone else needs to hear this, share it with them. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. I'll meet you in the next one.